My mom excluded me from her wedding because I look like my dad. My brothers refused to attend, and now she's begging for forgiveness, but it's too late. I'm 18 years old, just graduated from high school like 3 months ago, and honestly, I need to tell this story because I feel like if I don't get it out of my system, I'm going to explode. What happened basically destroyed whatever relationship was left between my mom and me. And the truth is that looking back, I think that relationship was never really solid to begin with, you know? But anyway, I guess I should start from the beginning, so this whole mess makes sense. My parents got divorced when I was like 7 years old. I don't remember much about it, honestly. Just that suddenly Dad didn't live with us anymore, and I was spending weekends at his new apartment that smelled weird and had furniture that didn't match. I have 3 younger brothers. Logan is 16, Isaac is 14, and the youngest is 12, and they're all from Mom and Dad too. I mean, the 4 of us are from the same marriage. After the divorce, custody was divided pretty evenly, like we spent time with both of them. But since Mom has always worked from home and Dad travels quite a bit for work, we ended up spending more time at Mom's house during the week and with Dad on weekends and during vacations. The thing is that always, and when I say always, I mean since I can really remember, I always felt like Mom and I didn't have that connection that moms and daughters are supposed to have. My friends would tell me things about their moms, like they'd go shopping together or tell each other secrets or whatever, and I would just nod, but inside I was thinking, what are they talking about? Mom was never like that with me. I don't know if it was because I look a lot like Dad. I have his same eyes and his same nose, and I think that always bothered Mom, even though she never said it directly. With my brothers it was different, especially with Isaac, because he's like the peacemaker of the family, always trying to get everyone to get along. But with me, it was like Mom was fulfilling an obligation more than anything. You know what I mean? Like 2 years ago, Mom met Thomas at I don't know where. I think on a dating app or something like that. And at first he seemed normal. You know, Mom was happy and we thought, well, okay, she deserves it. Thomas is like 45 years old. Works in something finance related that I've never really understood. And from the beginning, he was kind of weird with me. Not weird in an obvious way, but like, he would look at me with this disapproving face every time I walked into a room. Logan noticed it too and told me once, that guy hates you. And I told him, don't be dramatic. But deep down, I knew he was right. Over time, Thomas basically moved into Mom's house, and things got more and more uncomfortable. He had opinions about everything, from how I dressed to what time I came home, and the worst part is that Mom always agreed with him. If I said, Mom, can I go to the movies with my friends on Friday? She would look at Thomas first before answering, and if he made that face or said something like, I don't know, Christine, she has a lot of homework, Mom would automatically say no. It was like his opinion mattered more than mine or even more than her own. Last year in December, like 2 weeks before Christmas, Thomas proposed to Mom at a fancy restaurant with the whole family present. Well, it was just us 4 siblings, because Dad obviously wasn't there, and we all clapped and acted excited because that's what we were expected to do. Mom cried and said yes, and everyone in the restaurant was looking at us. And I just thought, great. Now he's going to be here forever. But anyway, I tried to be positive. I really tried, because I wanted Mom to be happy, and I thought that maybe over time Thomas and I could get along better, or at least tolerate being in the same house without this constant tension. Months passed and Mom started planning the wedding for this summer, like she had folders and folders full of flower samples and dress photos and all that wedding stuff. I would hear her talking on the phone with the wedding planner and with her friends about the plans. And although she never directly asked my opinion about anything, I assumed that obviously I was going to be at the wedding. I mean, I'm her daughter, right? I even mentioned to one of my friends that I'd probably have to wear a horrible bridesmaid dress or something like that, and I laughed. But inside I was like, well, at least she's including me in something important in her life. Like 2 months ago, at the beginning of August, I was at Mom's house on a Wednesday afternoon. My brothers were in their rooms and I was in the kitchen making a sandwich when I heard Mom and Thomas talking in the living room. I wasn't trying to listen, honestly, but the house isn't that big and their voices came through clearly. Thomas was saying something about the seating at the ceremony, and Mom was saying, yes, you're right. And then I heard my name. I stood still, with the peanut butter knife in my hand, and I heard Thomas say, Christine, we already talked about this. I'm not comfortable with her there. She looks too much like him, and I don't want to have to see him on my special day. My special day. As if mom didn't even matter in the equation. But the worst part, the absolutely worst part, was that mom didn't say anything to defend me. There was a long silence, and then she said, "You're right. It's better this way. It'll be less complicated." I felt like someone had hit me in the stomach with a baseball bat. I stood there in the kitchen, looking at my half-made sandwich, and I literally couldn't process what I had just heard. Was my mom really agreeing not to invite me to her wedding because her her fiancé, didn't want to see me because I look like my dad? Was that really happening? I didn't say anything that day. I went to my room, ate the sandwich without really tasting it, and stayed looking at the ceiling trying to convince myself that I had misunderstood the conversation. But I hadn't misunderstood it. I knew perfectly well. Like 3 days passed, and mom was acting completely normal, like nothing happened, talking about the wedding in front of me without any problem. And I was thinking, when is she going to tell me? Is she going to wait until the day before? Or is she just going to pretend I never expected to be invited? Finally, like a week after I heard that conversation, mom called me to the living room one afternoon. Thomas wasn't home, he was at work or something, and my brothers were with dad that weekend. Mom sat on the couch and motioned for me to sit too, and I knew exactly what was coming. She started with, "Megan, honey, I need to talk to you about the wedding," and I just looked at her and waited. And then she said it, just like that, no anesthesia or anything. She said, "Thomas and I have decided it would be better if the wedding was adults only, more intimate. You know? And your brothers are going to be there because they're groomsmen, but we thought it would be better if you didn't attend because, well, Thomas feels uncomfortable and we don't want any tension on the day." I stared at her, waiting for her to say it was a joke or something, but her face was completely serious. I said, "Are you serious? I'm not invited to your wedding?" And she did this thing she always does where she sighs and says, "Don't make this harder than it is, Megan. It's just one day. You'll understand when you're older. When you're older." I'm 18 years old. I'm legally an adult. But to her, I'm always going to be a child who doesn't understand anything, I guess. I asked her, "Is it because I look like dad?" Because I heard what Thomas said, and mom went pale for a second but then regained her composure and said, "It has nothing to do with your father. It's just that we want a day without complications." Without complications. That was me. A complication. I said, "Mom, I'm your daughter. How can you do this?" And she got up from the couch and said, "I already made the decision, Megan. Please respect it." And that was it. There was no apology. There was no real explanation. Just, I already decided and that's it. I left the living room and went straight to my room, threw myself on the bed and cried for like 2 hours straight. I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe that my own mother was excluding me from one of the most important days of her life because her fiancé couldn't stand to look at me. But wait, it gets worse. Because like 2 days after that conversation, mom came to my room again and said, "Oh, Megan, one more thing. We're going to have to cancel your birthday party." My birthday is August 23rd, and the wedding was scheduled for the 22nd, and we had planned to have a family dinner on the 24th to celebrate my 19th birthday. But mom said, "It's just that we're leaving for our honeymoon on the morning of the 23rd, so we're not going to be here for your birthday. We'll celebrate it when we get back in September, okay?" And I just looked at her and said, "You're kidding." And she said, "No, Megan, I'm not kidding. It's our honeymoon. It's already paid for." That was like the straw that broke the camel's back, you know? Not only was I not invited to her wedding, but she was also going to cancel my birthday for her honeymoon. I said, "Have you ever stopped to think about how I feel about all this? Do you even care?" And mom made that victim face she always makes, and said, "Of course I care about you, Megan. But you have to understand that this is a special moment for me, and I need you to be mature about it." Mature. She wanted me to be mature about the fact that she was completely rejecting me. Everything exploded like 3 days later. I was at mom's house because technically it was still my week there, although honestly I was already packing my things in my head, and we were having dinner. The 6 of us at the table, mom, Thomas, my 3 brothers and me. The conversation was about the wedding, as always lately, and Thomas was saying something about the cake and the flowers, and suddenly I heard myself say out loud, "It must be nice to plan a wedding your daughter isn't invited to." The silence at that table was brutal. Logan looked at me with wide eyes. Isaac froze with his fork halfway to his mouth, and the youngest just looked confused. Thomas turned red, like really red, and said, "Maybe if you weren't so disrespectful, you'd understand this isn't about you." And that's when everything came out. All the frustration and pain I had been holding in, not just from this situation, but from years. Years of feeling like Mom never really loved me or accepted me. I told Mom, "You've never tried to connect with me. Never. It's always been like I was an obligation to you. And now you're not even pretending anymore. Now you're literally telling me you don't want me in your life?" Mom got up from the table and said, "How dare you talk to me like that in my own house?" And Thomas got up too and said, "You heard your mother. I think it's better if you leave." I looked at Mom expecting her to say something, to stop him, to defend me even once in her life. But she didn't say anything. She just stood there with her arms crossed while her fiancé kicked me out of the house. Logan got up and said, "If she's leaving, I'm leaving too," and started going upstairs to pack his things. Isaac was crying, which was horrible because Isaac never cries, and the youngest was just asking, "What's happening?" I went up to my room, stuffed all the clothes I could into my backpack and a suitcase, grabbed my laptop and my important things, and went downstairs. Logan was already waiting for me at the door with his own backpack, and Mom was yelling, "Logan, don't be dramatic. Go back to your room right now." But he just said, "No, Mom. This is wrong and you know it." I called Dad from Logan's car. It was like 8 at night, and I told him everything, crying so hard I could barely speak. Dad was furious. I could hear it in his voice, trying to stay calm for me, and he said, "Come here. Now. Both of you." So Logan drove to Dad's house, which is like 40 minutes from Mom's house, and when we got there, Dad was waiting for us at the door. He hugged us both and said, "You don't have to go back there ever again if you don't want to. This is your home too." That night, I slept in my room at Dad's house, the room that had been mine since I was 7 years old. And for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe normally. The next few days were total chaos. Mom was calling Dad, yelling at him that he was alienating his children. Dad was telling her that she had done this to herself. Mom was crying and saying that I had betrayed her, that I had ruined her wedding, that I could never let her be happy. I didn't talk to her at all. I blocked her number for a while because I couldn't deal with her messages saying I was selfish and I was being immature. Logan didn't want to talk to her either. He was super angry, angrier than me even, saying things like, "This is a pattern. She's always treated you differently. She's always made you feel less than." Isaac would come visit us at Dad's house every 2 or 3 days. He was still at Mom's house with the youngest because, I don't know. I guess he felt like someone had to stay and try to keep the peace. Isaac has always been like that, the one who tries to fix everything, to make everyone happy. He would tell me, "Mom cries a lot. She's really affected." And I would tell him, "Isaac, she kicked me out of her wedding. Am I supposed to feel sorry for her?" But I understood his position. I really did. Because Isaac hates conflict more than anyone I know. Like a week before the wedding, Mom told Isaac that she wanted him to convince Logan to go to the wedding as a groomsman. Logan had an important role. He was supposed to give a speech and everything. Isaac came to Dad's house and told us, and Logan said, "Not in a million years am I going to that wedding. Tell Mom if she wants to talk to me to call me herself." But Mom didn't call. Instead, she had Thomas send messages to Logan. Like super manipulative messages, saying things like, "Your mother is devastated. You're her son. You have the responsibility to be there for her on her special day." Logan sent screenshots of those messages to Dad, and Dad called Mom and told her, "Christine, control your fiancé. He's not going to harass our children. And if the kids don't want to go to your wedding, it's because you gave them reasons not to want to go." The call ended with Mom hanging up on Dad, and then Mom sent Logan a message saying, "This is all your sister's fault. She put ideas in your head. You didn't think this way before." Logan responded with a long message. I read it because he showed me, where he basically told her that no, that he had seen with his own eyes how she treated his sister differently since we were kids, that he had noticed the favoritism and the coldness, and that the decision not to go to the wedding was completely his because he wasn't going to support someone who treated her own daughter like that. After that message, Mom started calling Dad every day, sometimes several times a day, blaming him for everything. She said he was manipulating us, that he was turning us against her, that he had never gotten over the divorce, and that's why he was trying to ruin her happiness. Dad would laugh like actually laugh because it was so ridiculous. And he'd tell her, "Christine, I remarried 5 years ago. I have a completely different life. This has nothing to do with me. This is between you and your kids and the decisions you made." Dad had married an amazing woman named Sarah. They have 2 daughters together who are my half-sisters and who I love. So this narrative that Dad was obsessed with Mom was completely made up. Like 4 days before the wedding, like the level of drama was already ridiculous. Isaac told us that the youngest had decided he didn't want to go to the wedding either. He was 12 years old, but he understood perfectly what was happening, and he had told Mom, "If Megan can't go, then I don't want to go either. It's not fair." Mom apparently had a total breakdown, crying and screaming that all her children hated her, that her wedding was ruined, that she just wanted one perfect day and everyone was being selfish. Isaac was trying to calm her down, but even he admitted she was being way too dramatic about everything. 2 days before the wedding, at night, someone knocked on the door of Dad's house. Dad went to open it, and it was Mom. She hadn't come to Dad's house in years, literally years, since before Dad married Sarah. She looked horrible, like she hadn't slept in days, with her makeup smeared and everything. She said she wanted to talk to me, and Dad looked at me and I said, "It's okay." I went out to the porch and closed the door behind me because I didn't want this to be inside Dad's house. I didn't want to contaminate that space with this drama. Mom started crying immediately and said, "Megan, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't want things to go this far." And I just looked at her and said, "What exactly are you sorry for? Are you sorry for excluding me from your wedding or sorry it backfired on you?" She said, "I'm sorry I hurt you, but you have to understand that this is complicated. Thomas has his feelings and I have to respect them too." That's when I realized her apology wasn't real. It was just another attempt to manipulate me into doing what she wanted. I told her, "You know what, Mom? My whole life I've felt like you don't love me as much as my brothers, and I always told myself I was imagining things, but I can't say that anymore, can I? Because you literally told me you don't want me at your wedding because your fiancé can't deal with the fact that I look like my dad, and that has nothing to do with me as a person. It has to do with your inability to see beyond your failed relationship with Dad." Mom got angry then, completely changed, and said, "You've always been difficult, Megan. Always so sensitive. Always making everything about you." I said, "You're excluding me from your wedding and you canceled my birthday. This literally is all about me being excluded? How is it not about me?" She shook her head and said, "I can't talk to you when you're like this," and turned around to leave. I yelled at her, "Then why did you come?" And she didn't answer, just got in her car and left. I went into the house and Dad was waiting in the living room. He hugged me and didn't say anything, just let me cry on his shoulder. The next day, one day before the wedding, Thomas sent me a message. I don't know how he got my number because I had blocked him after all the drama, but he messaged me from a different number. The message said something like, "Megan, I know you've been causing problems and turning your mother against your family. I need you to stop being so selfish, and apologize to your mother. She's worked very hard on this wedding and you've ruined it. If you really loved her, you'd put her needs before yours." I read the message like 3 times because I couldn't believe the audacity, you know? This man, who was the entire reason for this whole problem, was telling me I was the selfish one. I blocked him immediately without responding. I wasn't going to dignify that with a response. That afternoon, Mom sent Dad a message saying she wanted to invite him to the wedding. Dad showed me the message, and we both laughed because it was obvious what she was doing. She thought that if Dad went, then we kids would feel like we had to go too to not make Dad feel bad. But Dad responded, "Christine, I appreciate the invitation, but I'm not going. And I suggest you stop trying to manipulate our children into attending an event you excluded their sister from. This is a consequence of your own actions." Mom responded with something rude that's not worth repeating, and that was the last communication before the wedding. On the wedding day, August 22nd, we stayed at Dad's house. Sarah made pancakes for breakfast, and Dad took Logan and me to the movies to see a film I don't even remember, because I couldn't concentrate. I kept checking my phone even though I had blocked Mom. I don't know what I was expecting to see. Logan was quiet, which isn't normal for him, and I knew he was processing everything too. When we left the theater, Isaac sent us a message saying he had gone to the wedding after all, that Mom had convinced him by telling him that someone from her children had to be there, and he felt guilty. I responded that I understood, that I wasn't mad at him, because I really wasn't. Isaac was in a horrible position. The wedding happened. I don't know what happened there. I didn't see photos or anything. And honestly, I didn't care. Mom and Thomas left for their honeymoon the next day. My birthday. And I didn't receive a single message from Mom. Nothing. Not even a quick text saying, "Happy birthday." Dad and Sarah made me a special dinner and invited some of my friends. And it was nice, it really was. But there was this part of me that couldn't stop thinking about the fact that my mom didn't even remember me on my birthday. Like 2 weeks after the wedding, when Mom and Thomas had already returned from the honeymoon, I received a message from an unknown number. It was a photo from the wedding, Mom in her white dress and Thomas in a suit, smiling, and the message said, "Look what you missed by being selfish." I don't know who sent it. If it was Thomas from another phone or maybe one of Mom's friends, I don't know. I looked at the photo for a second, at Mom looking happy in a way that had never made me feel happy, and I just deleted the message and blocked the number. Now, like at this current moment, it's been like 2 months since the wedding. I live with Dad full-time. I enrolled in community college near his house to start classes in January. Logan is doing his senior year of high school, and he's also with Dad all the time. The youngest is splitting his time between both houses, but comes to Dad's house much more often now. Isaac is still trying to keep the peace. He still goes to Mom's house regularly, and I don't blame him. I really don't. Everyone has to deal with this in their own way. Mom has sent me some messages since she got back, like superficial attempts to reconnect, saying things like, "We should talk," or, "I miss you." But she's never said, "I was wrong." She's never said, "I'm truly sorry." She's never admitted that what she did was wrong. And honestly, I don't think she ever will. I think in her mind she's the victim in this whole situation, the woman who just wanted to marry the man she loves and her selfish children ruined everything. Yesterday I was organizing my closet in my room at Dad's house and I found an old photo from when I was like 10 years old, Mom and me at the beach, both of us, smiling. I tried to remember that day, to remember if I had really been happy or if I was just smiling for the photo. And the truth is, I don't know. I think I've been trying so hard for so long to convince myself that Mom loved me in her own way that I lost sight of the reality of how our relationship really was. And the reality is that I was never her priority. And now that Thomas is in the picture, I'm even less important. Last week, Dad asked me if I'd ever want to go to therapy to process all this, and I told him maybe, that I'd think about it. The truth is, I probably should go because I know this affected me more than I want to admit, you know? Like, I have these moments where I'm fine, and then suddenly I'm crying because I saw a mom and her daughter at the supermarket laughing together, and I remember that I'm never going to have that. But I'm also learning that it's okay, that not all relationships can be saved, and that sometimes people just don't have the capacity to give you what you need, no matter how much you want it or how hard you try. I don't know what's going to happen with Mom and me in the future. Maybe in a few years we can have some kind of superficial relationship, where we see each other at Christmas and pretend everything is okay. Or maybe not. Maybe this is the end. And maybe that's okay too. What I do know is that I'm not going to keep begging for crumbs of affection from someone who clearly can't or won't give me more than that. I deserve more than that. And it took me 18 years and a wedding I was excluded from to realize it. But at least now I know.